Hey everybody, welcome to WASD 20. My name is Nate, and you are watching a new series that I have yet to actually name. But you'll see the title in this video, so you actually have the jump on me. I'm giving you an exclusive here over even me. But this is basically going to be a map show and tell series where I just show off a map that I've been working on, that I've finished usually, and maybe reflect a little bit on the process of making that map. So welcome aboard. Here we go. This is Valos, and it is the homebrew world of Mike the Piper, whose YouTube channel I will link in the description down below. Definitely check him out. He's a great DM, great player, and a really cool guy, so check him out. But he hired me to do this map for him, and it was a great pleasure to do so. So I'll be going through the process here, and starting with some of the concept sketches, and just showing some screenshots throughout, images throughout of how I made the map. So we're going to start here with the original drawing that Mike sent me of his homebrew world. It was originally going to be called Lestra. He changed it to Valos, and it is made up of, I think I'm pronouncing it right, New Weister and Old Weister, and two continents with a volcano in between. He told me and said, I was told this looks a lot like Azeroth, and so maybe you can make some changes to make it a little less like Azeroth. And so I did, and I got some feedback afterwards, maybe not from him, from other people. It looks a lot like Azeroth, and maybe I didn't make enough changes, but oh well, live and learn. Mike, you're not watching this, are you? I hope not, because I'm going to talk about all of the things I wish I could have done better for this, and it's just going to be painful for you to watch. No, it'll be fine. But here's a zoomed in look at one of the continents. You notice that in here there are railroads. So this world is kind of a 1920s Prohibition era feel, but also a fantasy world. There are tieflings and orcs and dwarves and elves and all that stuff in this world. Firearms are just becoming a thing. They're fairly new to the world here. So yeah, really interesting place. And of course you can see him running games in this world on his channel. Here's another look at the other continent and some of the names there. And then what I did is I first in GIMP just kind of took my tablet and I drew up some rough shapes of the continents. I tweaked them a bit. Again, the goal was to make them a little bit less like Azeroth. And whether or not I succeeded in that, maybe not. Yeah, here's what I came up with and sent to him as kind of a rough sketch, just saying, what do you think? And then I drew it up. And this is the pencil sketch that I sent him after finishing. And yeah, just sent that his way so you can see some of the detailed work there. I went with a ridgeline style of mountains here. You can see up in the upper left there, I also had a title up there, and I was thinking about making a very brief key that had city, town, road, railroad. I didn't end up including that. And then down in the bottom right, you can see the beginnings of a compass rose. And if you can see my lovely knead eraser, oh, you probably can't see it behind my head, but anyway. And then here's a zoomed in look at one of the continents. After drawing the originals, he said maybe some islands there would be good, so we drew the hanging isles in there. And look at the other one. And here's me now starting some of the ink work. And so usually what I'll do is I'll send a client the pencil and say, what do you think? Look good? And if it does look good, pay me, and then I'll keep going. And that's kind of the way it works in general, in case you're wondering. By the way, map commissions you can always check out on my website, sellswordmaps.com. There's a commissions link there, and you can fill out the form to get more information from me on that. But here is the beginnings of some of the ink work. And making more progress here on the ink work. And this is one of the final scans. So when I'm finally done with all the ink work, then I scan half and half, because this is a pretty big sheet of paper. I think it's 11 by 14 or something. And so I'll scan one half, and then I will scan the other half. And then I stitch them together using a program called Image Composite Editor. It's a free program, Windows program, I think. And it's used for doing panoramas and stuff like that and stitching them together. And it works really well. It's very easy. I just say stitch, and then it goes and it stitches them together and into one nice image like this. And so that was the ink that I worked with. Now, a couple of things that I'm learning along the way is just to be really careful to erase my pencil lines. You can see I can't really see any off the top of my head, but you know, once, especially if you're multiplying this layer, which I did, I duplicated it to make it darker. You start to see some of that pencil showing through. So there were a few places, like with the text, like I can see maybe a little bit behind Vacla there, that some of the text was showing through the pencil, rather. And so that's something I'm trying to be more careful with. It's one of the reasons that working with pencil and ink is a bit of a pain, is that it is kind of hard to erase all those pencil lines. Even though I'm using a pretty light pencil, I think I'm using like a 5H, which is pretty light. Still, and then to get a picture that I can send to the client and a pencil version that they can still see before I do the ink is also a bit of a challenge, because I don't like to lay the ink down until I'm sure they like it. It's hard for them to see whether they like it when it's pencil. Anyway, it worked out okay in general, but those are things that I'm dealing with, and one of the reasons that working digitally is awfully nice. Here's the finished version now, and I'm going to actually switch over to GIMP so we can take a look at the project file itself. So, you know, I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. One of the new effects that I'm trying out is with shading the mountains. And so what I do is, and this is from Fantastic Maps technique, is take a, what is it here? Let me find the mountain shade. So I have two layers of mountain shade. The first mountain shade is, they're both overlay layers in GIMP. And same would be true in Photoshop. You would do an overlay. And what that does is that it just darkens the parchment. So it takes the existing parchment color, and then if you color black over it, it's not going to be actually black. It's just going to darken it. So that's what I did. And then I went with a deeper shade. So if we got rid of the deep shade here, you could see a little less detail. But if we go, there's the deeper shade now. Ooh, come on. It's not wanting to do it. It's going to crash. Okay. I think we've got a GIMP is not responding. Oh, there we go. It's working. All right. So you can see then now the deeper shade, and in the mountain shade too, I also added highlights. And so I took some white on the left edge and here and there on the right, but mostly on the left, to give it some highlight. It doesn't look that good when you're really zoomed in, but when you're zoomed out at a reasonable level, it starts to look really good, and it just gives the mountains more dimension, kind of makes them pop out a little bit. So this was my first time trying that technique, and I'm pretty pleased with the way it works. I think I've got some improvement to do in terms of digital painting for sure, but it looked okay. The forests, I probably should have done a little more work on, but you know, a lot of this is just got to get it done. I had 3 jobs in May, and it was a busy month for me, which is why you didn't really see any other videos from me in May. But that's done now. It feels good, and now it's time to show off some of the work. So yeah, the icons, I kept everything pretty simple on this one. Mostly just did dark circles, but you can see a couple of them for the capitals. I did stars or asterisks. That, you know what I'm saying. Great Star Fort, Neverhope Prison did have separate icons. I did share this map on the subreddit map making, which I recommend you check out. My username on there, by the way, is LankyMage, if you're ever looking for some of my stuff. And I shared it there and got some good feedback from people. One guy really gave me some excellent detail in the feedback. And I'm not going to change it now, but I think that if I, am thinking about stuff in the future, some of the things that he mentioned is that the Valos text seems a little too bold, maybe, for the rest of the map. The rest of the map is a little more delicate, so maybe an outline text would have been good there. For the compass rose, I'm pretty pleased with that, but I did a brown here and I did a black for the text, so I'm not sure if that plays real nice, and maybe I should have done brown text or black compass rose. I would probably lean toward more of a brown text, to be honest. What else here? Some of the things that I knew about that just didn't have time to change because I had to keep moving with other jobs. I tried a border for the very first time here, and I like how it turned out overall, but the gears here are a little maybe too bold as well. Maybe it should have been a little smaller. I don't know, or a little lighter. And then I kind of hand drew a lot of this border. I used the pencil tool to make straight lines, but you can see if we zoom in here, I actually scribbled that in, and I kind of like that look. It gives a little more of a rustic look. But if you look up here, I don't like how this corner right here turned out. compared to this one. This one is how it should be, but I just didn't space out these blocks very evenly to be able to achieve that effect well. So live and learn. Overall, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Here's an example, by the way, of where you can see some of the pencil lines just showing through a little bit. But you zoom out and it's a lot harder to see that stuff. Same with over here. You can see just a little kind of the pencil smudges. But yeah, some of the other things, the water shade, I'm using a new technique there. I'm using an overlay layer. If you look at my video on how to make give your map a parchment look, I didn't use this technique. I just used the bucket fill on the main map layer, which is right here. So in this one, I made a new layer, but what that meant is I had to go in there with my my tablet, my pen, and I had to actually go and trace all the outline here of that. And yeah, so that was maybe a downside, but overall I like how that turned out. I think it looked good, and I think I don't have it set to 100% here. Yeah, I have 54.9% opacity, but if we make that darker, I thought it was just a little too dark. It looks okay, I guess, but I really like the lighter look overall. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one. I feel like I'm talking really fast. I've had a little too much coffee probably, but that's okay. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're really good at mapping, Photoshop, GIMP, and digital art in general, I'd love to hear your feedback especially. Tips and tricks are always welcome. I'm learning a lot. Tim Carney's been a huge help to me. He's given me a lot of advice on little things, and some other folks. There's a lot of helpful people out there when you're learning new things, which every map I'm definitely learning and trying new things. So that's been a good process. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with this map. Mike was very happy with it, so that felt good. And yeah, can't wait to see him running more games in the world of Valos. I almost forgot to mention, don't forget to check out sellswordmaps.com, where you can download all my latest maps. If you click on the My Maps section there, you can download these. They're free to use for personal use. And make sure you give this one a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And you can also find me over on wasd20.net. All right, everybody, take care. See me again very soon.